Hi, I'm Dominic Guados, and I'm here with my co-host, Mark Roisenblatt, and this is the MDetroit podcast. Here at MDetroit, we interview the artists of Detroit and discuss their lives, art, and many other topics. In doing this, we hope to create a platform for artists to share their work. At our table today, we have the wonderful Scott Gwinnell. In this podcast, we talk on various topics of writing his first big band chart at 15 years old to working with musical giants such as Jon Hendricks, John Clayton, and Kareem Riggins. Also, educational values concerning Aretha's Jam Session and the Detroit Workshop. So, sit back, take a seat, and listen to Scott Gwinnell. Well, welcome to the MDetroit podcast. We are in season 2. You will be the last episode in our series. So we really thank you.
Yeah, the season finale.
Season finale.
We have none other than Scott Gwinnell, the great piano player. Thanks for being on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here, guys. I'm so thrilled and honored that you asked me to be here for your season finale. That's awesome. 2 years, too. Congratulations.
Not 2 years.
No. 2 seasons.
2 seasons. 2 seasons. 2 seasons. Congratulations on that.
Thank you very much. So what we typically do on this podcast is we begin with reading your bio. It's also for the listener to kind of get a little bit of a taste of what of who you are. And Dominic is going to read you your bio. And then after that, we have a couple of questions. How does that sound?
That sounds great.
All right.
Scott Gwinnell is an award-winning pianist, composer, arranger, and educator born in Detroit and residing in the Metro Detroit area. He recently freelances as a sideman and leads various groups, the most well-known being the 16-piece Scott Gwinnell Jazz Orchestra. He is an adjunct professor of music at Oakland University in Rochester, Michigan, and an ensemble director at Michigan State University Detroit campus. In his career as a pianist, Scott has played with many musical people of note, jazz and otherwise, including Aretha Franklin, Vanessa Williams, Sheena Easton, Roberta Flack, Joe Lovano, Steve Turre, Richie Cole, Dave Liedman, John Clayton, Kareem Riggins, and Jon Hendricks. Scott was music director for John for 3 years. He has recorded over 20 professional recordings as a sideman and has recorded 4 of his own, including Cass Corridor Story 2012, released by Detroit Music Factory, a part of the world-famous Mack Avenue Records jazz label. Besides conducting clinics, playing concerts, Scott is the director of the Metro Detroit Jazz Workshop. This week-long summer camp is in its 6th year, serving high school age students to professionals in music in Michigan and Ohio. Scott continues to be a vital member of the Detroit Southeast music scene and pushes forward in pursuit of learning America's native music, jazz.
So after hearing your bio, what would you add and what would you change?
Well, I for sure have to update it because that's 6 years old. I can't believe that hasn't. I do have some updated bios, but what would I add to it? Well, since that 6 years ago, I am the jazz education coordinator now at Music Hall. I put out a new CD with my 16-piece jazz orchestra not too long ago. 2 years ago, we put out recording celebrating the works of Mulgrew Miller, and the Detroit Music Factory was nice enough to release it. It's called Mulgrewology. I'm proud to say that we got it up to number 35 on the national jazz charts, and
Hey, wonderful.
which was incredible experience because it gave me an opportunity to talk to so many people outside the Detroit area and get our name out there. And I was so proud of everyone and the hard work they did on that album. It was so nice to kind of celebrate it a little bit and take a victory lap, for all the hard work put forward by Mark Byerly, who produced it, and all the members of the band who just knocked it out of the park. What else? I became a special lecturer at Oakland University, which is a kind of an interesting title. I guess it's somewhere in between adjunct and full-time. It's full-time, but it's not like a tenure track professorship. Playing more gigs up until this year. Interesting year. Let me tell you about it.
Oh man,
We'll talk about it. Don't worry.
Yeah, no doubt. And then, let's see, just doing what I do, teaching, composing, arranging, playing, obviously, and just loving the life I live because it connects me with people like yourselves and all the great musicians that are on the Detroit scene. So I consider myself the luckiest person on earth to be able to do this for a living, and I'm just and I forgot the jam session, of course, where I pretty much, Mark, where I get to see you the most, and
Yeah.
we've been doing that for 4 years now,
Yeah.
Up until this year. So I've been doing the music hall jazz jam on Sunday nights, and I'm lucky to do that too. Wow.
Yeah.
It's so nice to kind of go over that. Sometimes I get so busy with life that when you actually get to hear your bio kind of said back to you, like, wow, I've done a lot of fun things.
Definitely.
So that's about
will do
it.
more.
That fills it in, I guess.
I wanna also mention because so we got this bio, and then we were looking over it, and we always want our guests to correct anything because typically that's where we get the bio. We get it from the guest's like website or
Right.
I'm
somewhere.
so ashamed.
But I want to also mention the week-long summer camp, the Metro Detroit Jazz Workshop, is actually not in its 6th year, but it just did its 12th.
It's 12th year, yeah.
Yeah, which is amazing.
Oh yeah.
And I had the great fortune of being one of the mentors, not this year, but last year.
We appreciate that so much too.
Yeah, that was a great experience working with all the people. But we're gonna move on. We're gonna ask you some questions that were not necessarily inside the bio, and Dom is gonna get us started.
Yeah.
Cool.
So writing your first big band chart at 15 years old. Can you tell us about that and all the nooks and crannies that either went wrong or went right, in the words of Russell Miller?
Yeah, so many things that went right. Yeah. Well, I went to I started playing jazz when I was 14 with a wonderful lady, a legendary pianist in Detroit named Bess Bonnier. Bess was she was my first mentor, and I started studying her with that freshman year in high school, and at the same time joined the jazz band. And I was a trombone player, joined as a trombone player, and there was this kid in jazz band. I'll never forget his name. His name was Mike Elsela, and Mike had written a big band chart, and it was on the Chicken, made famous, I think, by Jocko, probably, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I heard that, and it kind of like let me know that it's okay for students to do this. Like, you don't just have to play published works. And I saw that, and I thought maybe this is something I could do. And I'd already been writing music since I've been about 8 years old. None of it was jazz, but jazz was now becoming my love thanks to Bess. And that summer, I I asked my director, and he said, "Yeah, we'll play something you do." And so I took the whole summer, and I mean the whole summer, to write a 2 chorus or 3 chorus big band chart. And I just remember toiling over the trying to transpose saxophones. That gave me more trouble than anything. Trying to write in E flat and B flat, and then the Barry with the E flat and up or down the octave, and putting it all together though was it was one of the best experiences I ever had. This was pre-internet, so I just had this Russell Garcia book that explained how to write jazz band charts, but no one to write for, and just to no notation program, so everything was hand copied, and you just had to count, and so everything was on my own. But when I got to hear that for the first time, and hear my own stuff going on up here actually being played by other instruments, it did two things. One, it was just an creative type of like high that I'll never forget. The other thing is kind of being a personality, as my wife would probably agree, somewhat controlling, that to have all that control over like everyone and say, you play this, you play this, you play this, and then to hear it kind of come back to you was both like humbling and incredible, because one, I could kind of pull the levers a little bit and create a sound, resulting from all these other cut from these colors coming from the jazz band, and then also to hear what they provided to it, that kind of surprise what the other musicians, how they surprise you, change what you thought would be the resulting sound. That was the thing that got me, and I thought, oh, you know what, like I'm hearing like the other people's art that they put into it. This is my kind of music, because you know what, as much as I wanted to control and make things happen my way, they said no, this is going to happen this way. And at that time, it was by high school musicians, but as I got older and started playing with professionals and hearing what they put into the music that I wrote, I thought, okay, this is it, because when artists start getting control of a writer's stuff and they start using their opinions and their expertise to put their take on it, I was always thrilled by every group that I had play my music. And I thought that it was like, okay, I wrote that chart, that I had to write another one, and pretty soon I was bringing stuff to my high school band where he was so sick of it. He was trying to find ways to just politely say, maybe not maybe wait another semester until you bring another one in, because I didn't know like this stuff would be hard, like I kind of had an idea, but I was a trombone player and you're writing for a saxophone player. I'm like, I don't know, they can do this, right? So
yeah.
But it was so much fun. And then I had all these supportive people along the way. Matt Michaels at Wayne State, who allowed me to bring works in. Trent Kinniston at Western Michigan. And all of these guys were supportive, and then eventually doing what I think where this is going about me starting my own big band, and eventually finding an outlet so I could write and and have the music played the way I wanted it played.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about how you were able to like transfer that kind of like interest for the creativity of like writing your own big band charts and your own music, and how that transferred into like the Scott Gwinnell Jazz Orchestra, and how that's kind of evolved over the years?
Yeah. Well, when I was 23 and still at Wayne State, I was finishing up my degree. We went to, I don't know, was the Circa around when you were there?
The Circa?
Circa? Or was
Circa.
It gone by that point?
Was Circa the place? It's on Cass. Okay.
It was probably gone by then.
Yeah, it's not there anymore. It's a diner now. But Chris Collins told me a story about this is just a very quick side note. Chris Collins told me a story of how they were playing there. They had like a jam session there or something. And some dude walks in. He's got like a fedora on and like a huge like overcoat, like a trench coat, and it's raining outside. This dude is just huddled in. And, they're playing a tune, they're swinging. And then all of a sudden, this dude just throws off his trench coat. And it's Freddie Hubbard with his trumpet.
No!
And he just starts playing. But yeah, that's all I know about Circa. So, quick little side note. Anyways, please continue.
Yeah, the Circa was a special place. We worked for pizzas there. That was the payment. And yeah, they had Monday night jam sessions going on there for years and years and years. And during my time at school, it was no exception. And I remember playing there with all kinds of students. And we decided one summer just to kind of give it a rough go. And I contacted some of my friends and some of the people that I gigged with, and we just kind of put a big band together, playing some of my stuff. And it was just kind of a dry run to see if it would work, and it kind of did. So the year after that, R.J. Spangler, I'll never forget, gave me some big band fronts. Pat Prouty said at the Music Menu Jazz Cafe, they might be interested in having a big band there. And so I went down there, talked to Rick, who is the owner. They said, okay. And I quickly, just like that, I was like, okay, let's give this a shot. So we created what at the time was the Music Menu Jazz Orchestra. And we're there a couple years. And there weekly, so many great memories, of just different musicians, because if you have a weekly big band gig, you have to fill a lot of chairs. And not everyone can make every gig. So I just started to meet all kinds of different people in the community, all these great musicians, first through college and then all over the place. And so that was the beginning. And, I at the time, I didn't want to be a band leader necessarily. I just wanted to be a writer. But then all of a sudden, when you kind of have it thrust upon you, then you have to kind of learn the leading end of things too. And that was definitely an experience I had to, like I said, grow into, but because I always wanted to be a sideman, I didn't have that much interest at the time in leading things, but it was incredible because you do have to make decisions and you do have to hire and very rarely fire, but you do have to organize and administrate and all that fun stuff too. But and then 22 years later, we're still going strong now as the Scott Gwinnell Jazz Orchestra, and 600 charts later.
Wow.
And,
Jeez.
And are these all your originals?
I would love to say yes, but no, we have a share of some professional charts, some charts by other people in the band, some people who were nice enough to provide charts to the book. We do have a fair amount of original material, but no, some of it is stuff that I just really like to play too. Some Thad Jones, some Maria Schneider stuff, some, just other artists who, are just great writers that we can pay tribute to.
Definitely.
So, being music director for John Hendricks, that's can you talk a bit about that and just playing with other greats such as Roberta Flack and Joe Lovano as well?
Yeah. So when I was getting my master's degree, that was my first full-time teaching gig. I got a college teaching gig at the University of Toledo. I think I was about 26. And at the time, I had relatively little experience working with vocalists, a little bit, but that was part of the gig. And so John spent he was an artist in residence there. So part of the gig was being his manager, his music manager, being, like whatever he wanted to do. In other words, you're writing the charts out, you're as accompanist, you do all the work, as well as play with the vocal ensemble and run the vocal ensemble at University of Toledo. So that was kind of like my first like real big experience where I had to do a lot of the grown up stuff, the getting people on the bandstand, like kind of like cracking the whip a little bit, like, and then being accountable to it by a faculty and by review and all that stuff. So I went from my only real big teaching gig was teaching at Blue Lake in summers, and all of a sudden it's like, I'll never forget the first thing they said, you have a jazz history class. And I thought, oh, cool. Love jazz history, and brushed up on it and felt pretty good. And they walked me over to my classroom, walked in, and there's 166 students.
Jeez.
in that kind of like, just imagine a stadium seated kind of class, gave me a microphone, said, okay, go to it. And I thought, okay, this is how it's going to be. And so it was between teaching in large classrooms, and then working with John. I found the experience incredible. John was a sage. He was a guy who had incredible experience. Even at his later age at this time, he was someone who was so strong musically. When I sat down with him at his kitchen table at the first time I met him like professionally, and he was talking to me about the John Coltrane solo on I think it was I want to say All of You with Miles, and he sang the whole solo in front of me without any accompaniment, sang the whole solo. I thought, oh, he's just going to sing a clip, and he kept going and kept going and kept going. And I thought, man, who is this? Like, I knew who John Hendricks was, and I knew how much of a bad, he was, but like this guy, he would sit in the section in the vocal rehearsals, and he would make lyrics up to these songs for everyone to sing in the moment. I just see him sketching stuff out, and it wasn't like, I love you, you're awesome, like lyrics kind of like, like this is poetic, like it was some of the best stuff. It was just coming off the top of his head. And he just, in the moment, create, he was a genius in every sense of the word. And I had the pleasure for 3 years to be around that genius and to manage him musically and be I'd never go as far to say I was a partner. Judith, his wife, was his partner, and his music partner, she was a vocalist in her own right. But I did get to touch that greatness for 3 years and learn from a master, So I'll never forget the experience. It was incredible.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about your, other experiences with, some of the other artists that we mentioned, like we mentioned Aretha, Vanessa Williams, Sheena Easton,
Joel
Vano, Stevie Ray,
Dave Liebman.
So
Green Riggins. Yeah.
Dave Liebman was awesome. I say my big band, it's our big band, our big band was we played at the International Jazz Association, oh my gosh, IAJE, International Association of Jazz Educators, there we go, at their conference in Toronto, and we it was awesome. We got featured playing with Dave Liebman, and so, he like to have Dave Liebman playing my charts and like being the featured soloist. That was awesome. It was cool that it wasn't too far away, so it was a good drive for everyone, but not an impossible drive. And Dave was supportive. He's one thing I loved about him was he was so no nonsense, like just told you how it is, and especially at that point of my life, like you want people around, and I still want people around me who are going to tell you the truth. Like I don't want to hear the BS. Don't tell me, that's great. But sometimes, after you get to a certain point, people want to, they're afraid to put themselves out there, for whatever reason. And Dave Liebman felt no need to. There's not much I could give him, and he's just like, okay, this works. This really doesn't work. This is awkward. This is really nice. You could do this. And I'm like, God bless you. This is awesome. Someone just tell me what I need to work on. And he was very nice like that. But just completely frank, I'll never forget the experience. It was just, and I think I ran into him a couple other times, and he's still awesome. Like I've heard he'll talk to people from Detroit. He'll say, yeah, Dave said hi. But we don't keep in regular touch with one another. John Clayton, I consider him a mentor. John, I was paired with him by the Detroit Jazz Festival in 2009, and they put us together to do a premiere of one of John's works. He was writing music for the festival called the THE, the Detroit, and it was dedicated to the Jones brothers, the Hank, Thad, and Elvin. And so there were two things. One of them was we played a series of concerts over the summer. We did one at the DIA, one at Cliff Bell's, and then I'm trying to think if we played another one at one place, but eventually then we closed the Jazz Festival out the last night. One of the most spectacular gigs of my life. It was incredible. But the other part about the gig was I got to go to LA and study with him, and that was incredible. At the time he was in the studio, so I got to learn watching him in the studio. Just watching a master writer at work. He wrote this, I'll never forget, he wrote this chart. And he would conduct, and he had the band was playing this ballad, and he's such a can I say badass? I don't know.
Sure.
You're fine.
Such a badass that he wrote this chart where it's this beautiful ballad, and he doesn't come in and play the bass right until the end. And then at the very last note, he plays this note on the fourth string way up high, bowed, and the whole band starts disintegrating away. He slowly picks up his bass and then bows this high note as the last note. I thought, such a risky chart to do that. He's busy conducting the whole time. He could have easily had the other bass player do it, and but he brought himself into the chart and gave himself an opportunity to do something. And since then, I've talked to him a whole lot. He was a guest clinician at my jazz workshop this year, and so I've kept up relations with John, which is incredible because he's one of the most centered, kind musicians that always puts other people in front of himself, and he's been a role model for me as a musician and a person.
Mm-hmm.
So those are some people that come to mind. Joe Lovano was cool, and some of those other musicians, I'll be honest with you, they were contacts through school, so
okay.
It wasn't like they sought me out, but I did get to play with Joe, and he was awesome. I learned the stuff in his book before he came to school, so I remember purposely. I knew that he was being picked up from the airport, so I went on a piano and just started playing all his tunes. And he walked in the room and was like, "Hey, nice man." And I was like, "Well, that's what you want to do. You want to show people the respect by learning their music." And
yeah,
so I remember doing that. And unfortunately, I didn't go out on the road with him or anything. But when I heard his album with Mulgrew, the Quartet's album, the Live at the Village Vanguard, I love Joe. Man, that double CD was it for me.
That's what is that? So there's Joe Lovano with like McBride And was McBride with Mulgrew on that side? Okay.
Yep, and yes. I believe Lewis Nash. And
yep.
Yeah, I love both sides. Both those groups were so different, and it was a kind of strange to put them on the same album, but they both offered something so completely different. And that's one of the I started really falling in love with Mulgrew Miller's music at that time, and he's another guy. I met him twice, and like John Clayton, one of the biggest sweethearts I ever met. He was like, he's one of those guys who just asks you about you instead of talking about. He could have so many things to talk about, and he's asking me, like what's going on in Detroit? You talking to Marcus? I'm like, you're talking about me? I'm like, you're Mulgrew Miller.
Yeah, that's awesome. So kind of branching away a little bit from the time with the greats, now in Detroit, I'm sure Dominic as well and a bunch of other people would consider you one of the Detroit greats, one of the great Detroit educators in our time right now.
Know it.
And one of the reasons for that is because you started, a very a successful workshop called the Detroit Jazz Workshop, and we mentioned it earlier.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about starting that and continuing that, how that has evolved, and maybe the reasons behind starting and continuing? Talk a little bit about that.
We in 2009, the same year as the John Clayton thing, that was such a huge year in my life because it kind of had me refocus some of my life a little bit. And one of the things that I wanted to do was to establish myself a little bit more in education. And I figured, you could sit around for years and wait for a job to come your way. Being a collegiate teacher is such a tough gig because you have to move around, you have to look for gigs wherever they pop up. So that might be in, it could be in Pigs Knuckle, Arkansas, and you're going to have to become the assistant jazz director of the Pigs Knuckle Community College, and no offense to Arkansas, but you'd have to move to a place that doesn't have Detroit's jazz scene, and all these great musicians. So you have to move around. I thought, okay, what is a way I can teach? I can work with people I like and make a difference in the community. So my wife, who was then my girlfriend, she taught at a church in Grosse Pointe, and we talked about borrowing this church for a week in the summer and just putting something together. We just contacting a couple friends, and I just kind of, through students of mine and students of theirs, we put 12 people together and just ran a little jazz camp for a week, and we realized that we liked it. It was fun. We did it again the next year, had about 16 or 18 people, and thought, okay, we'll just do this. We'll just chill, have a fun experience. And the next year we had 30. The next year after that we had about 50, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is actually kind of becoming something, and again, I didn't know what I was in for, kind of like with the big band, but was open to the possibilities that it could present itself. And I think in our 10th year, in our I want to say we had about 120 students, and I'm proud to say that some of the best young jazz musicians that I know have come through that workshop, both as students, as mentors, And Mark, I look at you as one of those people, I'm just super proud to have taught with. And, um, if I can be part of that and I can have a positive impact on our city and our jazz scene, and, let's do it, so.
Yeah. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, and I appreciate you doing that camp. I wish I'd known about it when I was a high schooler who was just completely clueless.
Yeah, I knew
man.
nothing about it when I was in high school, but I went to school in Farmington.
But that's one of our hopes with this podcast is that like things like this, things that people are doing, it's reached to a wider audience besides just the people that know maybe through word of mouth. Now, like we want to allow this allow MDetroit to be this platform that can be a stream of different information and relay that to people who are listening, and give back to artists like you who are giving so much for to the community. Because really just being a mentor, but also like watching how the workshop works, it's like a steal. You literally have boatloads of knowledge given to you for like an amazing price, and it's like the price doesn't just like limit yourself to the week, but you can stay in contact with these musicians for however long. Everybody's so willing to like go above and beyond just like just the classroom, and everybody's willing to like stay after and like
Sure.
make sure that the information is relayed to you so you understand. So I certainly appreciate it, and I'm sure everybody else does as well.
One of the things about it that I'm most proud of, and the different teachers that teach with me, and the students, and just the way we set that camp up was the workshop up, is that I saw that like a lot of high school students who are into jazz they had their own high school workshops, or they had college workshops that kind of had the kind of recruiting bend on it. And so everything there was just kind of, you were either kind of like a high school player in that situation, or even a college player who you could go away to a Jamie Aebersold workshop, which is awesome, but it's not local. But then adults could kind of do that too, but there was really no place for adults. And one of the things I'm proudest to say is that about 50% of our enrollment is adults. A lot of jazz musicians who, for whatever reason or another, they didn't become musicians in profession, but they love jazz music and they want to get better. And we found a forum for them to meet, to play, and to learn. And
Right.
And I thought, one of the things I was thinking was like, okay, this might be risky, because while we're putting high school players in with these guys and college players in, and how is this all going to mix? How is this going to turn out? And it was the most amazing thing to see that all the high schoolers came up to the level of the seriousness of the adults. I don't know if you noticed that.
Yeah.
Like for that week, they were on their absolute best behavior. There was no goofing around. The adults kind of set the way that camp is run, and everyone's like, I'm coming to get my learn on. Do not interfere. They came in there with their notepads. They're like, I'm here, I'm serious, I want to get the most I can out of this. And the high schoolers are kind of watching them like, okay, this is how we're going to do things this week. And just made for such a productive experience. And then mentors like you, and then Trevor and some of the other cats who were there every minute when a student was like having trouble with something, that you guys would pull them aside and like give them a mini lesson or help them out with the problem, or sit in a classroom with them. I watched you guys and I'm like, okay, these are some people who you guys are going to be the professors in the next generation, because you already got your head straight on on how to put the student first. And I thought, man, I'm so lucky to be able to work with you guys, and these students are so lucky too, because we couldn't just do it with this 7 faculty people, not with hundreds some students. You guys were such an integral part of that workshop, and came in so professional and serious about it. So thank you again.
We appreciate you and all you do.
But the Detroit scene, what are your thoughts on the Detroit scene? Jam sessions, young cats going up, old cats that are teaching and mentoring young cats just on a daily basis. What are your thoughts on the Detroit scene?
As good as heavy as it's ever been. I'm it's changed a little bit with just how, with you mentioned the word mentorship, how mentorship was, when I was coming up, was still kind of I think I caught the tail end of that being the main way to pass information along. School, jazz schools had started in the late 70s, but there was still kind of a mix because a lot of the older cats were still out there, pulling younger guys in and giving them the information they needed to, everything from how to act, how to tie your tie the right way, how to, how not to call this tune in this situation, all that kind of stuff. But there was a mix between the college people. Now most of it's the college people, but the cats are just as heavy, like like at the jam session on Sundays. Like, I'm just blown away by the talent that comes down there, and some of them are your guys' age in your 20s, and some of them are in their teens and coming down there just swinging, and you guys are eating your Wheaties, and so I'm totally impressed by the talent. The nice thing about jazz is that just because of I think the way the community is, and especially in Detroit, because it's such a friendly community, that you can be on a bandstand with someone who's 80, standing next to someone who's 40, standing next to someone who's 20, and everyone's gonna get something out of the experience. So I think we know how to do it the right way in Detroit, so even though maybe like the old guard is kind of not there anymore, they've passed enough of the information on to people like me that I can do the same to the younger people. And as long as we all remember that that jazz only partly should take place in the schools, and that it should also take place in the club, in the jam session, in the rehearsal space, and everywhere else, that it should be learned that it'll survive and it'll continue to prosper and morph into whatever it needs to become to stay vibrant and relevant to society. But Detroit's leading the way. My God, I keep seeing all these Detroit people, ending up in different groups, and I just constantly go on YouTube. I'm like, oh, there's a Detroit person, and they're getting all around the world. We're still sending great musicians everywhere.
The Detroit jazz virus. Watch out.
Contaminated.
So continuing on Detroit, you grew up here, and we're wondering, I'm sure this can be answered in multiple different ways, but how has Detroit impacted your life?
Did you say come back into my life?
No, how has it impacted?
Oh, impacted. Yeah. Oh my gosh, Detroit is everything. Everything from educationally. My job at Music Hall pretty much puts me in DPS, Detroit Public Schools, 4 days a week. So I feel like I'm there with students who are just beginning, to the jam session where I play with all kinds of different musicians. And then even up at Oakland, we have a pipeline to Detroit, and I make sure that those Oakland kids who aren't from Detroit, a lot of them come down to Detroit to see what jazz really is, and meet some of the musicians who make the scene up, and understand how important Detroit is to music, and not just jazz, but music in general. I owe Detroit everything. The clubs I played at coming up, playing at Baker's, the music menu, like I mentioned before, was so impactful to me in Greektown. Bomax, oh my God, played at Bomax so much. At Burt's, got played with so many great musicians, played in steady bands till 3 o'clock in the morning, playing at Burt's, so the venues have been so nice to me. Way back, way before I should have even been setting my foot in those places. Some of the owners and managers were like, okay, they could see that I was serious, and we're like, okay, you can hang around, you don't have to pay the cover, or you don't have to constantly buy the food, and do the whole rigmarole that a lot of paying customers have to do to hang at a jazz club all night. They kind of let me grab a seat near the stage at Baker's and just sit there, give me waters, or even before I was 21, being able to be in places like that. So I owe such a huge debt of gratitude to all of the Detroit clubs. And then later on, like Cliff Bell's, they've hired me so much over the years. Paul's been incredible over there. And then the musicians themselves, my God, George Benson was awesome. Earl Van Riper. So some of the guys that I remember, growing up Larry Smith is another one. Larry comes to mind. Larry Nazaro, Matt Michaels. Matt was my second mentor, and and then of course, Matt was he ran the jazz program at Wayne State, and he brought me into Wayne State when I was going to Western, and I was a trombone player, classical trombone major, and through his influence made me really want to change that to jazz piano. So I owe him everything, and this is all Detroit connection, and Detroit jazz is, I like I said, I owe everything to it, and just the mentorship by these different musicians who were not afraid to tell me the truth when I need to hear it, but also support me when I deserved it. And they've made me, if however you feel about me, they made me who I am. So the city made me who I am today. So I have eternal love for Detroit.
Yeah.
So just a quick question. You still play trombone?
Not well.
Or you still got it?
Not well. I pick it up every now and then, and it's one of those instruments. It's a beast if you don't keep up on it, because you have to keep playing. You have to do the mouthpiece thing, and if I played it for a while, I bet I could get a sound out of the horn. But I think I picked the right direction, focusing on piano, because
you certainly
I hear Vincent Chandler and hear Mike Deese and these other beasts who they just wow me whenever I hear them play trombone, and I'm like, I'm just gonna go back to the piano.
I'll go back to my place.
Yeah.
But what are some more humorous gigs? Like, this can be you were sitting on the piano and you were drinking a Coke and you just said, nah, let's just play some modal stuff. And
I got a good one for you if you want to hear it.
Yes, we're ready.
So I'm going to try and tell this with as much brevity as possible. But so I mentioned that I studied with Bess Bonnier. She was blind, and when I was 15 years old, She told me after kind of being a little demoralized about hearing a chart played by the big band in high school, she said, there is a guy in Ann Arbor who has a big band named Paul Keller, and Paul he would hear your chart if you take it out to him. And I said, well, that sounds great. How are we going to do this? She said, well, I'll drive you out there. I'll be your person in the car, because when you're 15, you have to have an adult in the car. You can't. I don't have a license yet. So Bess, who is awesome but blind, me, who had never driven to Ann Arbor in my life, 15 years old, driving in the car I share with my sister, with cigarette butts put out, from just this old beater 1982 Buick Century, going to Ann Arbor for the first time, driving out there at night, to get to the Bird of Paradise so they could play my chart. And so we get out there. It was pretty funny because I got out there. Bess knew everyone. I didn't know anybody. So they were all like, hey, Bess, what's up? And they played my chart. That was cool. I guess, the funny part was just how we got out there. Cause now as I think about it more and more, it was incredible. And, because now it's like starting to hit me, defining moment of my life. Because I'm starting to morph it into that, sure. Because that was also a defining moment of my life. Because to hear professionals play that music, it was the first time I heard Paul Finkbeiner, the first time I heard Scott Peterson, the first time I heard Steve Wood. Actually, Harvey Reed was the piano player. Bess was like, she would not go up there until she made me. She said, and no offense to Harvey, who is a friend of mine, Bess did not like to play on the piano after Harvey because I guess he got sweat on the keys. So she said, Scott, you have to go up there and wipe the keys off. I said, but they're playing right now. And she said, I'll only go up there if you wipe the keys off. And so they're talking, and I had to go get a rag from the kitchen, and I'm walking around the side, I'm kind of wiping the keys off, and Harvey's looking at me like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I don't know, I'm a 15-year-old kid, and I'm just doing what people are telling me to do. And so then Paul announces her to get up there, and she's trying to, she doesn't know what I'm doing because she can't see. So I had to then all of a sudden run back. I said, yeah, I wiped the keys off. we're okay. And then she went up there and she played. And after that night, I left a measure out of one person's part, and it was the 54th measure of the chart. And I didn't get it at the time, but someone, I think it was Paul Finkbeiner, wrote on my chart, bar 54, where are you? After, I don't know if you guys, if you've ever heard of that old TV show, Car 54, where are you? But I'm like, this is like how musicians are. They're funny. Like, everyone was chill. Like, they all played this incredible music. Then they all go to the bar and they're hanging out and they're just talking to me. Everyone's like a regular dude at the, they're like, these are people I thought, okay, these are gods to me. These are like people who sight read my chart, made it sound the best it ever did, but then also played like 9 other charts, all of different styles, and soloed their rear ends off on it. So I'm like, these people are incredible to me. And then they're all just like, oh yeah, cool, man. You sounded good, man. Are you starting?
That's like the
classic.
That's like it is the classic. Like, oh man, you sounded good.
Yeah.
You're like, oh yo, man, that was great. Awesome. And then they just turn away, or it's like awkward. You're just standing there like, thanks.
Yeah. Now, the funny thing is, I've been on the other side of that, where I've just been hanging with friends, and I just want to talk to them about, because we got to socialize on the gig, because a lot of times we just don't get to talk any other time. So when someone else just walks up, especially some kid, I'm just like, oh, this person's interrupting me. No, wait a second. No, come on in. Let's talk, and have to catch myself. But I thought, wow, maybe that's how they felt. Maybe they were catching up with each other. And here's this, 15-year-old Scott who's like, tell me about my chart. What did you think? No, tell me about my chart, but,
Can you please tell me about my chart?
But the whole experience was so incredible. I mean, then we were trying to get home. I got lost going home.
Everyone gets lost coming from Ann Arbor.
Oh my gosh. I got halfway to Toledo,
Oh my gosh. Oh man, coming from Toledo.
Yeah, I took 23 and forgot to get off on the 94 interchange. But just mayhem all night, all this crazy stuff to hear my chart, but I met all these musicians, and then I went home, stayed up the whole rest of the night writing my next chart because I was like just powered, from the experience. And it just and then Paul forever, anytime I brought a chart, he'd play it. And but that's but I know Paul's from Grand Rapids originally, but he's an honorary Detroiter. He's played here long enough, and he has the spirit, and another mentor figure,
Definitely.
I guess so. I guess it's kind of funny, but
it's funny and wholesome.
Funny and wholesome.
Fulsome. Well, speaking of not fulsome and not funny and not wholesome, we are currently amidst pandemic situation, and we're wondering if you could tell us a little bit about your pandemic situation and how that's going for you.
Well, my wife and I are holed up here in the Gwinnell Estates. Yeah, we're here just in our house and our 4 cats. I consider myself lucky in the sense that teaching has given me a way to still earn a living. I know a lot of my best friends and musicians that I play with are not as lucky to have that kind of situation in their life. So I, as much as this year sucks for me and for Delane, there's so many people that have it worse, and my heart goes out to them, hoping, that they're able to keep things together until we can pull this music scene, back together and at least start to make it so we can all start having gigs again. And it's just awful for everyone. Even for the first second that I even want to start feeling sorry for myself, there's people who have it worse and much worse and worse than that. So I just, as a community, we're resilient. Detroiters are resilient. We're going to survive, but man, we're going to have to work together, and we're going to have to support each other, because even when this vaccine takes effect and stuff, we're going to be feeling this for a while. And it's the music's the first thing to go, and to be the last thing to come back, at least professionally, because a lot of people don't give it the respect that it deserves. And I just hope we can, and I'm speaking about like the clubs, some of these great places that feature jazz, they take such a risk to
do that.
And the people, of course, too, but we've been healthy. We were able to, knock on wood, avoid the virus so far. And but yeah, we've just been holed up, go to the grocery store once a week, and maybe do a gig every now and then, but wearing the mask, of course. And
right.
So I just hope, and especially for my friends who've gotten sick, and for some of them, unfortunately, there's a couple people that I know passed, and this has just been so awful for everyone. And
yeah,
let's get through it, guys.
Oh, we are. Like you said, we are resilient. Um, kind of touching back on your educational background. Playing and educating in unison. Can you talk about more of the Aretha Jam just as you have created it and
Yeah.
put your stuff into it?
The Aretha's thing was kind of, the sessions that I kind of grew up with, like the Elvin session was pretty heavy jam session. The all the other sessions that kind of popped up were a lot of times, kind of like borderline cutting sessions where, you know, you had to really go and play. And at my job at Music Hall, I saw potential for a session that would be more educational.
Mm-hmm.
And this was I thought, with the help of, Jordan Shug and Dave Zwolinski, who were, both just incredible musicians who also are also teachers. They both agreed with me that they wouldn't mind taking a mentorship role a little bit more and offering to musicians if they wanted the opportunity to be schooled a little bit on how to perform better at jam sessions, anything from repertoire to socialization to all the aspects of the jam session, that we would be there to give them more guidance in that kind of way. Of course, some of the more heavy musicians who showed up, like Mark and some of the other cats, they just want to go and play. So we just try our best to, like, for these younger cats to see musicians like Mark, to kind of like learn from them, and then for the young people to give them a little guidance and make it kind of an educational jam, and try and strike that balance where everyone has fun and plays with the people they want to play with, but at the same time kind of realizing they're in a room of education. And Music Hall's been awesome for giving us that voice to do that for 4 years now. And that's what Aretha's Jazz Jam is, every Sunday from 6 to 9.
Yeah, that jam. Spent many Sundays at that jam.
Yes, you have.
It's always educational. Like, even like Scott keeps saying that I'm like one of these heavy musicians, and I'm like, nope. I'm watching you guys. Like you guys are the ones who are like teaching us. And then it's crazy. Like, even the younger people that show up, they're like, I mean, I teach a little bit, not to the extent of, you or Dave or Jordan, but like the younger people, it's interesting, is like you'll just learn something playing from them, whether it be something small or something, that might have taken just that experience to allow you to learn about, certain musical situations, or just about life, really. So,
Sure.
and I think that jam session, at least for me, has been like an example of even though like I didn't grow up like going to jam sessions when I was like in high school or whatever, or like learning, because I did go to jazz school and stuff. It was a kind of like a beacon of how to act and how to like respond, and like how to teach and how to treat people who are new to the session, because like that was one of those sessions where you could show up and it's not a cutting session. It's not a place where there's any judgment or anything. And having like the three house musicians, as well as, the heavier cats that come out, be, just as kind and willing to educate and like not allow for mistakes, but like encourage people to try new things, was a really nice, just a really nice way to be like, okay, this is how you act. So I'm very grateful for the Aretha's Jam, and for you, Scott, for everything you've done for all those people that are wanting to get into the scene and play the music, you know?
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. And, you know, I've had to have some heavy words with a couple people who really didn't get the message. But I would say that 99% of the people who go in there, they understand that pretty quickly. So I don't have to do as much as you think. I think it's it takes a village type of principle to raise a kid, and everyone in that place kind of understands that vibe. So my work is not as hard as you think. I just go in there and feel the good vibes. Once in a while, have to knock a couple heads for people who, they're typically trumpet. No, they're not trumpet players. Actually, our trumpet players are really, really good. They're actually some of the most, they're some of the best, most educational trumpet players who go to sessions, actually, to be honest. But everyone for the most part, I think, understands that, and there's no vibing. There's no bad feelings, because no matter what, no matter where you are, we were there once.
Yeah.
And we all understand that. And if you want to go someplace where you can butt heads with other people, man, there's plenty of places you can go, I'm sure, but Aretha's isn't that place on a Sunday night.
Definitely. So there is a I don't actually I think, Scott, we met at not at the Aretha's Jam, actually. I think we met at the Black Lotus Jam. I think that's where we met. And I remember, like, it was really interesting to hear, like, you had a lot of things to say about like business aspects,
Sure.
like talking like getting a gig, keeping a gig, and stuff like that. But is there any, like, tips or advice for the younger musician that you could give that that you kind of carry with yourself when you're going into, like, a business situation, or when you're going into just general, like, music business advice, I guess, is my question.
Yeah, in general, let's see.
It could be specific too, if you have something in mind.
Probably keeping an open mind is one of the best things I can think of, because there is no one fits all situation, whether it's just booking a gig or playing in one band. The needs of different band leaders, or the needs of different club owners, or the needs of different proprietors that would hire you for something, it will never be the same. And if you go in with a mindset like, I'm going to tell them what I do and how I am, sure, maybe that's a good artistic decision for you. But as a business person, you have to wear so many hats, and you have to be able to switch hats very quickly.
Mm.
So if this was a young person, that keeping an open mind means learning as many different styles of music as you can learn, having as many different trades to offer as you can. You don't have to be a specialist in them, and you can have your heart can be dedicated to the type of music you like, but you can't do it at the detriment of avoiding everything else. Wayne State was a really good training ground for that. I always felt Wayne, and Matt Michaels and Russ Miller, Chris Collins, and all those guys were really good at saying, okay, you love what you love, and that's great, but how are you going to work? And, so stressing all of the pre-professional things and amongst them, like, keeping an open mind to what the gig was going to be, because, like, especially as a pianist, some days I have to be a sideman, some days it affords me to be a leader, but I could be an artist who did another job for a living, and was only able to dedicate part of my life towards that, or I can be an artist who does a lot of different things and does nothing but play and teach music every day of my life. And I feel like I'm much happier with that route, but some days I have to play in a blues band, not that I hate it. I love it. But some days, I'll take a wedding gig every now and then, and I'll play classical music for a ceremony. But the thing that I didn't realize at the time when I got that initial advice was I didn't realize that the challenges of playing this other music that wasn't my first love would be so much fun to try and not master, but at least take the challenge on.
Right.
And because I did that, it's enriched my experience and contributed more to the things that I do love, and given me a wider approach to life and to music. So my challenge to any of these young musicians out there is have your passion, but keep an open mind towards everything else, because you're going to be able to sustain this in the long run and be a musician longer.
Sure.
Well said right there. What is something that you will never forget, that is constantly on your mind? You remind yourself even when you're practicing, you're playing, and you're living your daily life.
Something I'll never forget.
It could be a quote or a concept or whatever.
It's hard to say, because I just feel like I'm extremely lucky in my entire life to, like I said, to be doing this. I wouldn't be able to do it. I'm gonna take a little left cut here, because I hear her back there, but my wife Delane has afforded me the ability to, and the means in which to do this, meaning while I'm going to school, has taken care of a lot of the things around the house to make sure like all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed with the bills, with making it so I can concentrate fully on teaching and playing, and without her direction, her love, that I wouldn't be the man that I am. And so that's what I think about every day and every night, and we get to, again, like I said, this 2020 is awful, and the coronavirus is awful, but I get to be holed up with, the greatest partner and anyone, could ever ask for. So, so I keep coming back to that. As I get older, I start thinking about some of the other things, that besides music, and that's one of them, because I wouldn't be here without her. She's incredible. It's Delane, my wife.
Yeah.
Oh, the love. Oh, yes.
And she makes killer ribs too. Which
nice.
Now we gotta. Yeah. When pandemic's over, we know where we're going.
So outside of music, what are some things or hobbies that you do that are not affiliated with music?
Well, I've taken up tennis the past couple years. One of my best friends, James Hughes, I've known him since school. He's an incredible tennis person. If you were to even ask me a couple years ago if I would even be interested in playing tennis, no. But it turns out it's like a beautiful pandemic activity, and it's kind of, it's social. I can talk to one person. I can get my competitiveness out, and energy, And during the summer, it's beautiful to get out there. And I was getting so sick of running, and and honestly, even biking. I like biking, and it was something, like it's more engaging. So I really got into tennis the last year a little bit, and especially this summer.
Nice.
So it's kind of been but besides that, I love film, architecture. I almost went into architecture, so I still like doing designing, like reading. But to be honest, music has kind of supplanted most of that in my life. But the tennis is, I gotta admit, I was out on that court way too much this summer.
Nice. Let me ask you this question: do you watch tennis now, in like competitive tennis, or do you?
My wife hates it, but yeah, she. I'm sorry for ratting her out, but yeah, I even got that deep into it where I actually sat and found myself watching, because like after you get into it a certain amount, just like anything else, man, you gotta watch the pros. You gotta watch how they do it, and if you want to get better, So yeah,
good old Serena.
Oh my God, incredible.
Yeah,
incredible.
Yeah, she's crazy, and she makes it look like it's.
She's
not
just
hard.
like, well, no, like she'll have times where she's just like, or she'll be like, and you're just like, yep, she's getting in it. She's
her
getting in.
focus and just talent is incredible. I can't even imagine. She reminds me, like, okay, if there's like when I'm thinking about like that kind of pro jazz player, that's Serena would be that top of the, because she's got it all. I mean, she's got the creativity, the focus, the raw talent. The interesting thing is, like, tennis is, I compare it to jazz a little bit in that, like, you have to be creative when you go out there. There is a competitiveness edge to it. It's not, you're not trying to best your jazz opponent. You
Right.
go out there, so it's a little more indirect than that. But there's an element of strategy too when you go play it. But you definitely are reacting in the moment to what the other person is doing, and so I definitely kind of get a little bit of a jazz vibe when I'm out there playing, and I'm awful. If you ever get any footage of me playing tennis, I will come after you. I'm awful, but
you would probably destroy Dom and I. We do not indulge ourselves in tennis.
I am good at ping pong, though. We can do some ping pong.
Take you up on that. Yeah, so that, I guess, that's the maybe pretty lame hobby, but
that's a pretty good hobby.
That's a good hobby. It's awesome.
We're about to introduce the one section that we were talking about in the earlier part of the podcast. It's called Hip the Listener. So this is where we have you, the guest, hip the listeners to anything, whether it be music, art, events, movies, documentaries, or whatever you possibly could want.
Stuff of mine, or just stuff that I'm into?
Whatever.
So whatever you want to hip.
Okay. Let's see. I'll lead with something of mine. If you guys haven't checked out Mogurology, please check it out. It's on YouTube now, so you can check it out for free there. Extremely proud of that. It's our big band's latest work.
Good.
I've been listening to Irene Krall lately. She's a vocalist that goes under a lot of people's radar. She's a incredible vocalist. Let's see. All my thoughts are so engaged right now because we're just wrapping up the semester. And so all I'm thinking about right now are finals and writing projects. So most of my stuff I'm thinking about, to be honest with you, is not stuff that I'm into as much as stuff that I have to explain. So I'm going to seem really boring. I can tell you this. There's a I got this out the other day. If you guys haven't checked out Legrand Jazz, check that out. It's a big band album of like with just about every happening jazz musician from the late 50s on it, and Michel Legrand, who's more known as a French pop composer and a more of a like classical influence cat, wrote this incredible music. Check out A Night in Tunisia on this record. I believe it's on YouTube too, but Legrand Jazz, Legrand. Yeah, that's incredible. And then I've been listening nonstop probably for a year to both the Shostakovich string quartets and
Good man.
Sarah Vaughan live at Mr. Kelly's. I've been listening to that a lot. But I work with vocalists so much that it's kind of like a lot of ways taken over my life. It's kind of strange. I never would have thought, but I really enjoy working with vocalists and teaching them.
It's interesting because when we did the workshop last year, I like recently when we were doing research for your podcast, I stumbled upon like some videos that you put up on your website of like talking about that record in particular.
Yeah, sure.
And I went and I looked at all the tunes, and I'm like, oh, that's why all of Scott's students sing these tunes, because they're on this record. It was so funny. So this is our last section of the podcast, and we call it the rapid fire question section. Rapid fire questions, not necessarily rapid fire answers, but we're gonna,
Hey, you might be rapid.
yeah, you might be rapid, you might not be, but these are the rapid fire questions. So here goes. Top 3 tunes to play with the Scott Gwinnell Jazz Orchestra.
Mulgreology, Sister Sadie, and trying to remember the name. I can't believe I'm having a older person moment here. Wingspan. Those are probably my
Nice.
3 favorites.
Gotcha. What is in your current music rotation?
Current music rotation. Well, like I said, the Shostakovich quartets, and then I went out to the store yesterday and was listening to Sarah again.
Perfect. Small or large ensemble?
Ooh, oh my God. It's so hard to choose. They both, I'd have to say, I love I love the big band. I love playing with it, but small ensemble, because I get to express myself playing, it all comes down to that in the end,
Definitely.
Preferred method of listening to music.
Preferred listening to what?
Preferred method of listening to music.
Oh, listening to music. What do you mean exactly?
So like record player, CD, 8-track.
8-track for sure. No. I have the most CDs, probably end up listening to MP3s the most, but love records more than anything, but I just don't have a lot anymore, and a record player that works well.
Sure.
Record would be the preferred.
Got it. Favorite quote from Jazz 101, a collection of humorous student quotes from essays.
Oh man. I had a student in class wrote in one of their papers, um, I like, or I wish John Cherry would put his trumpet back in his pocket.
That's so bad.
It's awful. Or here's another one. Said, is it called free jazz because no one will pay to hear it? No.
Who is this guy?
Oh my gosh.
I said, here, I'll give you one more. Count Basie had the best of all the big bands until he led them all to their death in 1937. I'm not telling you it makes sense, and I realize that it doesn't really say a boatload about my teaching skills that kids are putting those in the paper. But we did have kind of a jive book that I know exactly where they got at least the Count Basie thing from. So
It's so funny.
That's hilarious.
Just
for
the listeners that don't know, Scott wrote a book called, like I mentioned, Jazz 101, a collection of humorous student quotes from essays, and I think the title will cover what the book is about.
They're all the real thing too, unfortunately. But I remember I told you I had 160 kids in a class, so over 6 semesters there was a whole lot of papers I had to correct, and and most of them were like 99% good, but every now and then I had to circle one and then circle another quote, and all of a sudden I'm staring at a word processor thing of all these quotes, and I used to pin them to my office door, and everyone would say, "Oh, you should make a book out of that. You should make a book out of that." And
yeah,
I made a book out of it.
Here we are.
Those are fantastic.
Are those still available, by the way?
No. No. I for the sake of my reputation, I gotta keep that on the down low a little bit. If we're hanging out sometime, I'll get the book out and I'll entertain you.
Gotcha.
I'm ready. All right, last one. Top 3 arrangers.
Oh my gosh. I got to put Thad in that list for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Thad is huge influence. Maria Schneider and Darcy James Argue.
All right. Scott, is there anything else you want to leave with the audience?
Well, I appreciate you guys having me on here. I hope people will, when we get through this coronavirus, will get back out there and support jazz musicians, support the jazz scene. I know it's gonna be hard to do because not everyone's gonna feel safe right away. But as soon as we're kind of rocking again and things are going, guys, we have to get out there and support this community. It's not just going to kick right back into shape. It's going to need the support in the clubs. Find the jazz musicians that are out there playing. Just go visit, go see them, pay the cover, even if the cover's a little too much. It's going to be worth it because we got to keep this music alive in Detroit. It's so important more than ever.
Definitely.
That is, yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Yeah. Where could people find you?
If you want to find me on my website, it's Scott Jazz. William's my actual first name, so if you ever see any of my work, it's penned W. Scott Gwinnell. So I just called it W. Scott Jazz. And then if you're interested in the workshop or any of my education endeavors, helpwithjazz.com is the way to find me there. helpwithjazz.com.
Perfect. Scott, thank you so much for being on the podcast. It was a genuine honor, and we appreciate you so much for taking the time out of your day to speak with us.
Gentlemen, the honor was mine, and I wish you the best on your 3rd season coming up, and it's, like I said, it's awesome to be part of the closing out the second season here.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Scott.
Yeah, have a good night, guys.
You too. Wow, that was such a magnificent conversation.
Be sure to like, share, and subscribe on all our social media.